Welcome to the InfoGov Hot Seat Vodcast, featuring candid interviews with practitioners, consultants, and solution providers on hot topics in the information governance industry. Here's your host, Jim Merrifield.
Well, hello and welcome to the InfoGov Hot Seat. I'm your host, Jim Merrifield, and with me today is Barbara Dalton at Norton Rose Fulbright. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jim.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm glad you took some time out of your schedule to be on the hot seat, answer a few questions about yourself and your experience. So here's the first one. Can you tell us a brief introduction of your role, how long you've been with Norton Rose Fulbright, and one fun fact about yourself?
Oh, boy. No pressure. Okay, well, I'm Barbara Dalton. I'm the Director of Data Privacy and Information Governance, a brand new role at Norton Rose Fulbright. I just joined the firm at the end of September and had back-to-back conferences. I had the InfoGov World at the end of September and then ARMA the beginning of October. So they very generously allowed me to attend those since I had already been committed. So I actually, jumped in with both feet, the second week of October. So still learning the lay of the land, still getting to know all my colleagues and our processes. It's a big firm. There's a lot to learn, but so far I'm just loving it there.
That's awesome. Love it. And what's that one fun fact about yourself? Not to put you on the spot, but you can't forget that one.
Oh boy. Gosh, I'm just not that interesting. But okay, one fun fact. I was the 12th baby born at our local hospital in the town I still live in.
Okay. All right. I like it.
My parents took a horse and buggy to the hospital on the dirt road.
Oh my goodness.
I'm kidding,
Really?
Jim.
True story? No, I'm just kidding. No.
But I was the 12th baby born at the local hospital here in Des Plaines. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's awesome. And you're a dog lover, right? We just talked about
I'm a
that.
huge dog lover. Daisy interrupted us a little earlier. I actually do a lot of lab rescue. I have 3 labs, 2 chocolates and 1 yellow, and all rescues. I've been involved in lab rescue for 15 years or so. So I just love it. If any of your listeners need a lab, I can set them up.
Call Barbara. No, that's awesome. That's great. So speaking of our listeners, can you share with everyone the strategies you've implemented over the years to ensure data integrity and security of information?
Oh, gosh. Okay, how long do we have, Jim?
As long as you want.
That's a really big question. So, first of all, let me tell you a little bit about my background, because I don't know if you even know. I didn't start my career in legal. I actually started in pharma. I was in pharmaceuticals for 10, 11 years, building and running a records management program there. It was there that I really cut my teeth on learning about the regulatory requirements. It would be nothing to have the FDA show up at our manufacturing site to ask for certain records and see how you responded. And you always wanted to avoid what the FDA called observations. An observation was just a note they made about, your record keeping or your lack of record keeping. So that was a really, really great learning experience for me. I worked with a lot of scientists. We worked with, raw materials. We made contact lenses, which is considered a medical device. So really, really fun place to learn the business. From there, I went to government. I worked for the clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County for about 5 years. And that's an experience working for the government. I recommend if anybody ever gets the opportunity to work for the government, take it. Do it at least for a short time. You learn so much about how governments work. And then from there, I did a short stint with a hedge fund company here in Chicago, Citadel. They're pretty huge. Worked there for just about a year. And it was then in 2007, I believe, that I joined a small local firm, Bell Boyd and Lloyd, which then merged with K&L Gates just a few years later. So, ever since I've been pretty much involved in big law, stints with K&L Gates, McDermott, Will and Emery, Sidley Austin, and now Norton Rose Fulbright. So I really enjoy big law quite a bit. I love the infrastructure of big law. So as far as data integrity, I've always made it a point to make really good friends with IT and understand, their processes, their worlds, how we can collaborate on things. Knowing how to classify data when it comes in and protect it, limit it to only the people that need to know. I remember doing some things when PII and PHI started, we had regulations around the handling of that. I remember doing things like putting key locks on certain workrooms where people were prevented from going in. And after that, it became access control readers, things like that. So it's not just the data. Well, these days it is more the data, the electronic data. But I remember a world where you had to prevent access to hard copy records as well. So, I've seen the whole gamut of that over the years.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. You've been with many firms and, as you said, government and pharma. So I'm sure along the lines you've had many successes, but also I'm sure challenges as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about those challenges and how you've managed to overcome those issues. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I remember starting out in my career in records management, it was almost a daily challenge just to justify your value to the company, because it was just records and boxes you were managing, right? And it was so much more than that. I remember putting together retention schedules and working with different departments to identify their materials, to send them off site properly, to assign retention values to them. It's a lot more work than the average person can appreciate. So, that's been a challenge over the years. Now working in legal, I think it's really a challenge to sometimes have the attorneys understand what you do and the value you bring the organization. I think you probably remember this too, Jim. I distinctly remember when this term information governance started making its way over here, maybe about 15 years ago or something. I kind of scoffed at the idea because I thought, well, that's what I'm doing now, because I always was taking this very holistic view of data, how it comes into the firm, how it's controlled and secured, why managing ethical walls and restricting physical access to paper files is so important. But eventually, I did understand that information governance was becoming, a bigger and bigger industry, especially for law firms here. So I think working with attorneys can sometimes be challenging. They're so focused on taking care of their clients and meeting those obligations that they sometimes don't take into consideration the way we do our work makes a big difference. Everything we're keeping in a data repository is potentially discoverable. So we have to be careful about what we're putting in there. And, if we're storing things in other repositories too, that's not such a great idea. I know you must struggle with this as much as I do, but we've just got to get our arms around all those data repositories and put some ground rules in place and just ask people to play by those rules. That can be a challenge.
Yeah, for sure. You mean we don't put everything in the document management system, and that's it?
What
Is
can't
that
I
unrealistic?
put on this thumb drive?
Eh,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, how simpler the world would be if we could put everything in a document management system or in a box. That
Oh,
would
yeah.
be a lot easier. So for sure. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just stayed in the business of just managing boxes.
They're not doing too badly. Yeah. They're not, because a lot of decisions are deferred, right?
Yeah,
So that's the sound of money to an offsite storage vendor.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, there's plenty of challenges, right? And we all face them collectively, whether big law, small firms, AmLaw 100, 200, even in the corporate world. So let's switch gears a little bit and talk about there's tons of laws and regulations related to IG and even privacy. And I know privacy is in your title, right, at Norton Rose. So could you shed some light on, how do you keep up with the latest privacy laws and information governance regulations to records management? How do you do that?
Wow, that's a challenge. I think for any of us in this business, it really is, especially in the US. The landscape is changing daily. I can't even, you can see IAPP puts out maps of different legislation pending
Hmm.
in the US, and I don't think they can even keep that current because things change so quickly. I think it's not reasonable to expect any one person to stay on top of that and practice information governance at the same time. So I really rely on things like professional organizations, ARMA, um, it, um, ILTA. ILTA is a great organization for that. Just the networking with peers, webinars, seminars, white papers. I recently was very fortunate to be included in the LFIGS community, where a lot of my peers, and I know you're part of that community as well, Jim. A lot of my peers are tackling these subjects in white papers and things like that. So I think if you want to stay abreast of all of this, you have to make a concerted effort to stay in touch. I tell my staff all the time that I should see at least 1 hour a week devoted to a webinar, a seminar, something like that, because that professional growth is so critical to their continued development. And I feel that same way about mine as well. I used to feel guilty about taking time and attending webinars. I don't anymore because I just think they're vitally important to continue growing and to continue being in this growth mindset. None of us can know everything. We have to depend on that knowledge sharing from others to stay current.
Yeah, it sounds cliche, but it takes a village, right? It takes our teams, it takes a network. We've known each other for quite a while, right? With different
Mhm.
groups and things, and
Yeah,
we collaborate a lot on different projects and pain points. And why reinvent the wheel, right? If someone's already kind of somewhat figured it out, right? Someone's probably
exactly.
had the same issue. So yeah,
Exactly.
no, that's a great answer. I mean, hopefully one day AI could figure everything out for us, right? And give us all the information we need. But we'll have to wait and see how uh, how that works out.
Yep.
So here's another question for you. Our listeners are always interested in the impact of technology. Could you give us some insights into how tech advancements have changed the landscape of IG in law firms? I know there's been tons of changes over the last several years. So can you comment on that a bit?
Oh, it's funny. I was attended a local ARMA meeting last week, and we were talking about this because, I remember the days of mag cards and floppy diskettes and things like that. And now we have huge systems devoted to managing all this data and information. Um, there was a time, a friend of mine in the Chicago area once told me she was a CIO of a small law firm, and her records manager told her that he doesn't do electronic records; he only does hard copy records. And boy, wouldn't that be something if we had that choice? We don't have that
Yeah.
choice. That's the reality of the world today. Um, we have to understand how these systems work, how information gets in, how it's secured, how information gets out, who has access to it. All of those different elements are really key to our understanding of properly managing information. So that's another area where I don't think you can sit by and wait for the information to come to you. You have to actively go after that information and work with your IT team. See what does your architecture look like at your firm? What do you need to be worried about? Who has access to these these shared repositories and what kind of data is being stored there. So it's had a profound impact on our industry for sure.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, there's technology today that I think us as IG professionals can take advantage of that doesn't need a huge tech uplift, right? There doesn't have to be a huge technology uplift or any of that stuff. There's a lot of technology out there that can, crawl our drives and, things like that and give us insights into our data that wasn't really there, several years ago. So that's
Well,
awesome.
I'm really excited about AI in that respect because I think AI can really, really be promising for information governance professionals just to evaluate the types of information you have. Where are you storing it? Who's accessing it? What gets accessed more than anything else? All that kind of technology is very promising for our industry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So this has been an awesome conversation. I'm going to ask you one final one. If you could look into your crystal ball for 2024, what do you see for information governance? What excites you?
AI, AI, AI. That's all we're hearing about right now. But for me personally, I'm really, really excited about bringing groups together at my firm and developing a really world-class information governance program. I love building programs. It's one of the things I enjoy doing more than anything. So, that's the challenge I'll be taking on for 2024 and learning how to incorporate different technologies like robotic process automation. I've got some ideas for how we can build some bots to go out and perform activities that are taking us hours on end to do right now, such as, a bunch of reports for departing attorneys. How can we leverage that kind of technology to make our jobs easier and more effective? So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I think that's insightful, right? How we can use AI to maybe solve some of those repeatable tasks so that we could focus on more strategic things, pushing our firms forward. So that's awesome. You got a lot on your plate for 2024, I'm sure.
I think we all do. It's really an exciting time to be in this profession. But it can be daunting. It can be daunting at times. I always say, I think the information governance community is probably one of the best communities you can be part of because people are so willing to share their triumphs and their tribulations and learn from each other. And it's just a great community. And thanks, Jim, for spreading the word more amongst our community too. Your audience is able to meet people that they may have never met otherwise. So kudos to you for that as well.
No, happy to. No, and thank you for spending some time with us, sharing your insights, your experiences. You have tons of experience and knowledge to share. So thanks so much for spending some time today and on the hot seat, right? The questions weren't that tough, but you made them enjoyable and
cozy.
Yeah, see, there you go. So listen, thank you so much for being on here and thank you for listening to today's episode on the InfoGov Hot Seat. Encourage you to please visit our website, infogovhotseat.com, to view the latest episodes and the like. And if you'd like to be a guest on the hot seat, just like Barbara here, please submit your information through our website. And thank you and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Jim.
You got it.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the InfoGov Hot Seat. Follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and LinkedIn. Check out our main website at infogovhotseat.com to view our latest episodes and much more.